The story of the Mahabharata is one of two major epics of ancient India. It is said to have originated in 400 BCE and has been retold millions of times since, going through numerous iterations and transformations as it traveled throughout India and into Eastern Asia. The Mahabharata is considered a cornerstone of Hindu and Indian culture. Welcome to Not Your Mother's Mahabharata.
This is not your mother's Mahabharata. Beware. It's fucking epic. Hosted by SP Jayaraj.
Welcome everyone to Not Your Mother's Mahabharata. I am your host and storyteller, Satish Jayaraj, or SP Jayaraj. And with me, as always, is your co-host and my wife, Azure Anderson.
Hey, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hi. Hey. What's up?
I'm sure everybody's answering in their own way and in their own...
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope they're yelling at me from their cars or their backyards.
Yeah.
Or their living rooms.
Or
their office.
How's your day going?
Great.
Excellent.
It's very beautiful outside.
I've
been
really
outside
nice
a lot today.
It is just the two of us today. We are going to be continuing our story of the Mahabharata, and specifically, we will be, I would say, wrapping up the fallout still from a couple episodes ago.
Oh my gosh.
From the game of dice.
Okay.
So, yeah, we could get.
Well, I'm excited. Like I thought we had. There's more.
There's
about
the game
of dice.
There's a little bit more of just trauma that needs to be kind of dealt with on some levels.
Okay. I'm here for the trauma. All alone with no one to hold my hand.
I can reach across the table and hold your hand.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. Well, we'll just have to deal with it.
Where are my cats?
Where are the cats?
They're just right behind you sleeping.
They're right behind sleeping.
They're not going to help with the trauma.
I don't know if they're necessarily fans of the Mahabharata yet, but
I think they love it.
Yeah?
They're asleep.
Oh, maybe they're just careful listeners. But, well, let's kind of dive in.
Okay.
Yeah, let's dive in. So
Splash.
Splash indeed. So here's where we are. So as we said, we were dealing still with the fallout from the game of dice, where the Pandavas lost everything because of Yudhishthira's, essentially his gambling problem, where he just kept losing and losing everything. He lost his kingdom, then he lost his brothers, then he lost himself.
It was crazy.
And then he lost Draupadi.
Unforgivable.
And then Draupadi was humiliated so completely. And then they got everything back because the king, Dhritarashtra, was like, oh, this is going too far. But then they came back, the Kauravas came back to him. I was like, let's do one more game of dice.
Yeah.
And to which Yudhishthira, for reasons we still have no idea about, said yes, except clearly got a gambling addiction of some kind. But Yudhishthira said yes, and now he and his brothers are in the forests. And there, the deal was whoever lost, which the Pandavas lost, need to be living in the forest for 12 years.
Okay.
And then in the 13th year, they need to be in hiding. So they cannot be found.
Okay.
It's the strange game of hide and seek. In the 13th year.
God.
And then in our last episode, where we had Ben join us, we dealt with some of the fallout where Krishna came back to visit. And that was when Draupadi was able to really just unload and talk about like her trauma, how like she doesn't understand
her bestie came home so she could talk.
Yeah.
And she was holding it all in until Krishna got there.
And she was really like, just like, how could this have happened to me when I have all these husbands to take care of me, and then all of this. And so Yeah, so that will also kind of come back in play.
It's a lesson on relying on yourself, girls.
Huh?
Even if you have 5 husbands.
Yeah.
Lay sigh.
It was pretty awful.
Yep.
It was pretty awful.
Yep.
So, and then Krishna left, and I believe that the Pandavas keep now going back and forth between the Kamyaka forest, and Dvaitavana forest. They seem to be going back and forth in this period between those two.
Okay.
So, and I think there's some literal naming and reasons for that.
Okay.
So, but I believe right now they are in the Kamyaka forest, or Kamyaka forests, and they, Yudhishthira, the oldest Yudhishthira, is craving to be hanging around with more rishis. So more wise people. He's like, let's make our years here fruitful at least.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what he wants. He wants to, like, let's go to a place where we can spend time with them.
Okay.
And Arjuna, so the third oldest brother, Arjuna, he, because of his earlier travels, has known a couple places. So he knows of this place known as the Dvaitavanya forest.
Okay.
Right? So the Pandavas and Draupadi, they all go now to the Dvaitavanya forest where all these rishis are. And Yudhishthira spends a lot of time with the rishis.
Okay.
He just spends a lot of time, and he's kind of happy.
Great.
He's almost like
He's found his bros.
I'm dubious of this.
Okay,
I think in
okay.
some sense I feel like he has found his bros, or his, his spiritual bros.
Sure.
But what's also happening here is that the younger Pandavas are so it's Sahadeva and Nakula, the youngest twins.
Yeah.
And I think even Arjuna, they're doing okay, doing their own thing and surviving here. Bheema is just not in a good way.
Okay.
Bheema is getting worse and worse. They're all kind of isolating from each other.
Oh. By worse, do you mean he's just not talking to anybody, or he's not eating, or what is he not doing?
Yeah, so really all of those.
Beam's not eating?
Beam is basically going into a kind of depression.
Oh no, buddy.
Yeah. And Arjuna tries to talk to him. Arjuna tries to, clearly there's some resentment still of Yudhishthira. Mm-hmm. And Arjuna will try to talk to him, and then, Draupadi will come out, he'll see Draupadi, and just kind of go back off and do his own.
Sure.
And, right, so he just seems to be getting, like I said, more isolated.
Yeah.
He's the more joyous one, the more, exuberant one.
Yeah.
So it's very clear to everyone that there's something going on with him. Mm-hmm. And everyone knows everything here.
Yeah, of course.
Right? Everyone knows, what'll happen. So, but it's becoming kind of aware. Draupadi as well is just also kind of isolating from the others, and is also just upset.
Well, they need time.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is kind of healthy. They need time to this is a big event.
Yeah.
A lot of shit went down.
Mm-hmm.
They need time to figure stuff out on their own. They're always together.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good that they're giving each other some space for a little while.
At least let them think things out a little bit. And as you said, just sometimes just space.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, and yet, again, Yudhishthira is doing pretty good. Yudhishthira loves listening to the stories, spending time with these rishis. You're shaking your head.
This asshole.
This is,
He's the only one having a good time. And it's his fault.
It seems that he is just not as... There's something about Yudhishthira's nature as well, where he is such a patient person, and then also that, he can be disattached, which is why he kind of gets along with the rishis as well.
Okay.
Whereas of course, Bheema is the most emotionally attached to things.
Beam needs people.
Yeah.
Beam needs fun.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Beam needs his board game nights. Right?
Yeah.
Beam needs to go bowling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beam needs his beer runs.
Yeah.
Beam is not getting these
Beam
things.
needs a lot. We will get a lot of what Beam kind of needs.
Okay.
In the midst of this, there's a 16-year-old who comes and visits the Rishis and Yudhishthira.
Okay.
And as soon as the Rishis see him, they bow down to this person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
16-year-old.
apparently so.
Okay.
And then Yudhishthira sees him and then somehow knows as well. So this is the person whose name is Markandaya.
Okay.
And yeah, Markandaya. Markandaya is an immortal at 16 years old. Hi, listeners. If you are enjoying the Not Your Mother's Mahabharata podcast, we invite you to visit our website, spjayaraj.com, where you can see the other projects we've got going on. If you're a fan of mythic and magical-filled stories, you can check out my fantasy books and explore the magical world of Adajari, where my stories take place. You can read up on imagination life coaching to see how I help creatives, individuals, and teams expand and apply their imagination towards living happier and more fulfilling lives. You can also look up my related self-help books that are inspired by global myths. If you live in the Twin Cities Metro and want to see me tell stories live, you can look up the calendar to see my upcoming shows. Or, if you're interested in bringing some storytelling and imagination directly to your community, there is the option to start that conversation on the website as well. And of course, you can check out all our episodes of the Not Your Mother's Mahabharata podcast. You can find all of this and more at spjayaraj.com. That is spjayaraj.com. All right, back to the show.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the story of Markandaya.
That's a good age to be immortal.
That is very,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
The story of his is that his parents wanted a child, and for some reason, I guess there was some reason that they couldn't have, and so they had a boon with Shiva, the god Shiva, and Shiva gave them two choices. One is that your child can be a good person, like the best of the best, and until he's 16, or he can be a dickhead and live a super long life.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So his parents actually chose let him be a good, best person, and only till 16.
Okay.
So
Oh.
that was his upbringing. At some point, like closer when they were getting to that 16 mark, they told him, like, well, this is what's going to happen to you. We're so sorry.
Yeah.
And he acknowledges their powerlessness, and he's grateful to them that they made the decision to make him like a good person.
Sure.
And he gets a little philosophical and like, this is just the nature of life.
Because he's a good person.
Because he's a good person. And because he's a good and a great person, he starts to do meditations towards Shiva.
Okay.
Right? So devotions towards Shiva, which includes having this thing called a Shiva Lingam, which is something that you'll see in temples devoted to Shiva.
Okay.
So he kind of has his own, then like that's kind of becomes his Shiva that he prays to, and yeah.
Cool.
So when he starts turning 16, or when he starts getting to that age, the god Yama, who is the god of justice, of destiny, and also of death, sends his, let's say, demons out to get him, because his time is up, but they cannot penetrate his aura.
Oh, cool.
That he is getting from doing these devotions to Shiva.
Okay. So they're just like, come on, dude. Oh, no. And just poking at him.
Exactly.
And he's like, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah.
Or he's
exactly.
like, I'm not doing anything, guys.
Yeah, I'm just praying over here.
Okay.
Yeah. So finally, Yama comes himself.
Okay.
And throws his noose.
Oh. Ooh.
Around, like a big, large noose. Around Markandaya. And then tugs. The problem is the noose went over Markandaya and the Shiva Lingam that he was keeping close to him.
Oh.
And so when he pulls, he breaks the Shiva Lingam.
Oh no.
He breaks this item that is of holy significance to Shiva.
Oh.
And so Shiva comes out of it.
Oh no.
Pissed off.
He comes out of the icon.
Comes
iconic
out
thing.
of the Shiva Lingam.
Oh my gosh.
Angry.
You broke my toy.
Yeah.
No, not toy.
Not
you broke
toy.
my thing.
you broke the Shiva Lingam.
You broke my vessel.
Yeah, let's
There
go
you
with that.
Okay. Whew.
And he kills the god of death.
Well, no, but the
Because that is Shiva. The creator, the destroyer, one of the Holy Trinity.
So he's gonna make a new god of death?
The other...
What happens to god of death? Somebody has to be god of death.
Somebody does. And the other gods come to Shiva and like, hey... And so they coax him into bringing back Yama.
And Yama comes back like shivering, like, what the fuck was that? Oh my god!
So that's what that's like?
You just see him like, boop, back into existence, just like shivering under a blanket. Oh my god! I'm so sorry I did anything ever. It's gonna be afraid to kill anybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this conversation that happens, because I don't know exactly who grants it and what discussions are made, but that's when Markandaya is granted immortal life.
Okay.
So this happened several ages ago, let's say.
Sure.
Right? A long time ago.
Sure.
So, and he's still just wandering around being a Rishi, essentially.
It's like Interview with the Vampire.
Uh-huh.
Except 16's a better age than that poor little girl was.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, than Kirsten Dunst.
But also, I think, too bad I didn't get to like 24.
Uh-huh.
24, 25. That would be
That's the prime.
the good immortal age. 26.
Yes.
You know?
Past the age where the brain is fully developed.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Like, that's where to become.
Because 16, you're still like a kind of too young.
Uh-huh.
And it's a little creepy if, you want to like,
Yeah, although I
have
don't
some
know
fun.
that is something with him because being
Not
a
into
Rishi.
it?
Being a Rishi,
Oh, I guess you don't.
I don't know too much about him beyond the story. But
Oh.
it's quite likely that this is just his existence.
Okay. Well, that's sad then. Maybe not.
He
likes it.
is a happy dude.
Okay, he's into it. Cool.
He's just...
Great.
As he's hanging out with everybody, he's just...
He's a happy Jack.
Yeah, he's just joyous. He's looking around what is this sad scenario, and yet is joyous.
Yeah.
And happy. And Yudhishthira asks him, he's like, Markandaya, everyone else who has come to visit us is either feeling very sorry for us, or in some cases even angry.
Mm-hmm.
But you are exhibiting joy. How is this so? Why is this so?
Yeah.
And so what Markandaya says is that, he's been around a long time. He's seen all these epic stories, and like the situation of the Pandavas being in the forest now for what will be 13 years reminds him of the hero of the last age, which is Rama.
Okay.
And Rama was in the forest for 14 years.
Okay.
And he was in the forest, so this is Rama of the Ramayana. And he was in the forest also not because of anything he did wrong. Not because he lost it like Yudhishthira did. One, he's in it for a whole year longer.
Sure.
And then also it was his father had promised a boon to someone, and that's what got Rama exiled for these 14 years.
Okay, so it was his dad's fault.
Yeah, it's let's say it's complicated.
We'll get there someday.
Yeah. And I believe that it's actually in this section where they through this like vehicle, Markandaya even like goes through the entire Ramayana.
Oh shit.
So it goes through that entire epic.
Oh my gosh.
As long as the Mahabharata.
Jeez.
And so I'm assuming it summarizes in some way, but really like gets that whole full story out.
Okay.
Which we will not be doing for this podcast because we will revisit it properly.
Exactly.
At another time. But he says that like this was reminiscent of that great hero where everything worked out. So gives him some hope, and then those comparisons also do help Yudhishthira with all that.
Good.
Yeah. and that's it. Then he leaves. That was his
Okay.
story done. Yeah.
So happy guy comes
Happy
in.
guy, happy immortal young
tells
16-year-old.
the entire story of the Ramayana.
Yeah.
And leaves.
All
right.
Makes Yudhishthira feel a little better about
Puts
himself.
on his little cap and struts out of the forest.
Exactly. Exactly.
Off to live another forever.
Yeah.
Years.
Exactly. Still walking around right now.
Okay.
At some point, it's just Draupadi and Yudhishthira, and the rishis, for whatever reason, are not like there. They're all coming and going.
Okay.
And the other brothers are kind of around. Right?
Okay.
So Sahadeva, Nakula, Arjuna, they're all kind of around. And then Bhima as well.
Did they all have little houses and stuff? Did they make themselves
They made
a little community?
I think they did make themselves, yeah.
Okay.
I know I believe Draupadi for sure had one. They made one for her.
Okay.
And Draupadi just goes all out on Yudhishthira.
Good.
Just goes all out angry at him, and she just says, "Is like, look at all of us here. You were the emperor. You were the king of everything.
Yep.
You were dressed in the finest silks. Now we're dressed in deerskin. No?
Mm-hmm.
Had the finest, most modern beds of that age, and now we're sleeping on the ground.
No.
And she goes down the line.
Yeah.
This whole, this is way longer. This is all the things you had.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have none of that.
And it's your fault.
She's angry that he's happy. She's angry that he's not, why are you not angry at all this?
Yeah.
Look at your brothers, right? Look at Sahala, and she's like, is this what Sahadeva and Nakula's mothers would have wanted?
Yeah.
Just gathering fruits and berries, for example. Arjuna, the greatest archer, is not doing much here.
Mm-hmm.
And Bhima is look at your brother Bhima. Just going further and further into just this clearly depression and just getting upset. Which is a little into and we'll hear a little bit more about that in a bit. But she goes off on him. And why are you not suffering through all this? Why are you not upset? And Yudhishthira is calm.
Mm-hmm.
And he replies very, I would say monotonely, keeping his cool.
Sure.
And he does say that, no, I'm not good at showing this, but all of this is upsetting to me.
Okay.
All of this, I am absolutely upset with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you have said, I have been seeing. Mm-hmm. And I do see all of it knowing that this has fallen on me to do. That this is because of me.
Yeah.
That all of this has been happening. Right? So he really does. This is an interesting chapter for me for Yudhishthira. And I'll say this about Yudhishthira myself. I did not think I would be here. He was... Remember, how he was reluctant to become emperor?
Yeah.
He was reluctant to become emperor. It was... One of the reasons was so that his father would go to the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
But just... He needed convincing. And then his brothers went and did all the acts. And he got everything from all of this. And but it all happened so fast.
True.
Right? He became king of the world in a day.
He wasn't ready for this.
He wasn't ready for this.
He didn't even want it, probably.
It had been a day before they took advantage of him. So he hadn't even, I feel like it hadn't even fully sunk in.
Yeah.
And everything was kind of, not that he didn't have the temperance and wouldn't have been good. He would have.
Yeah.
But it all was, it was all kind of brought and handed to him.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
And to get all of everything so fast. The thing that's something I've been giving him a little bit of credit and even forgiveness for.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And one of the things that, and Yudhishthira so admits he's been suffering, but this is something that he admits to suffering. Draupadi then kind of starts she starts arguing about his whole reasons for this is dharma.
Yeah.
Right? So, and this is the complicated world we've talked about it about as far as like a direct idea of like taking care of the poor. But the concept of dharma, I think in this case, is just the idea of like honor and justice.
Mm-hmm.
What is the right and good thing to do? Taking the high road and all that stuff.
Yep.
You know, that's what the dharma is. And she's like, what is the point of all of this? Look where the dharma has left you, where it has left all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And look as well where it has left, like, the Kauravas. They've got everything now.
Yeah.
Is this just? Is this the way of the world? Is this the good thing that's meant to happen? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that was just something that's really upsetting her.
Of course.
And, like, why are we not taking some kind of action?
Mm-hmm.
And Yudhishthira argues that now is not a time to react out of anger.
Mm.
And that's all she's feeling. She's like, what the fuck? You
Yeah.
know? But he's like, we need to be patient.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, patience, what is the whole point of patience? Like, beforehand was the time to be angry. Like, if now's not a time to be angry.
Yeah.
Right? So they go back and forth on this, and Beam chimes in.
Okay. He
Beam.
just pops in from down the hall.
They're all kind of listening.
Okay.
And Beam is, like, finally, like, joining in. Beam, what really broke Beam, or like a second level big Beam, was actually that conversation when Draupadi was talking to Krishna.
Okay.
So, because when she totally just, let everything out.
Yeah.
And she said to Krishna, like, how could this have happened to me? I have all my husbands here, and they did absolutely nothing.
Mm. Yeah.
And so it's really like the fact that, because the Pandavas have lived in the forest before.
Yeah.
And they've been fine and they've been happy in the
Right.
forest before.
It's not that they can't manage it.
It's not that they can manage it. Now, Draupadi she has never done that before.
Sure, but she's got all these guys. And
Yeah.
she's tough. She's still
Well, I guess she did a little bit. Yeah, she did, I think, a little bit when they first got married. But
Yeah.
ultimately, yeah, she hasn't been before. But it's really like how, like, poor Beam is just feeling like he honored his brother.
Yes.
He followed Dharma, which was following his brother, which led to him betraying Draupadi.
Okay.
And just like that feeling that he had of standing by when she was attempted to be disrobed and humiliated. And then the fact that she tells all of that to Krishna, like all the stuff that he's feeling, that's what's really been torturing him.
Mm-hmm.
And his argument at the end finally is like, we need to take everything back. We need to go back and we need to fight them.
Okay.
That is the true Dharma. That is the true justice that we deserve, that Draupadi deserves, that the Kauravas deserve.
Right.
I mean, like, this whole idea of honor that you've been talking about is, like, this was a game of dice.
Yeah.
You know, this was not a battle that we lost. It was a game of dice where every single individual knew that Shakuni was cheating.
Yep. But he still did it.
Yeah. So, and Yudhishthira again, he admits his fault. And he admits that everything that has happened here is my fault. Everything that you say to me pales in comparison to what I did.
Right.
So he really does know and acknowledge that this is all my fault. I'm not disputing that at all.
Right.
And he also says this, the fact remains though, I gave my word. I gave my word that we will 12 years,
Yep.
13th year in hiding,
Mm-hmm.
then we will go back. And at that point, if the Kauravas do not give everything back to us as agreed, then we will go to war.
Okay.
And then all the crazy vows that you guys took will come to pass. I will support everything coming to pass. They will see a Yudhishthira that they have never seen before. because now Dharma is on our side.
Yeah.
But only then. It will not be until that happens. So that gives them just a little bit of peace.
Yeah.
A little bit of peace. But they're still, especially Draupadi and Bheem, are pretty restless.
Sure.
They're still pretty restless.
They want to do something.
They want to do something.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's when Vyasa comes by.
Hey, Vyasa.
Yeah. So Vyasa, of course, is the grandfather of both the Kauravas and the Pandavas, the teller of the Mahabharata, wise sage, all of that. And Vyasa, last time we saw Vyasa was when he was actually with the Kauravas.
Sure.
Right, because the Kauravas were going to launch an attack on the Pandavas in the forest. And Vyasa was at least able to stop that.
Yeah.
Now he's come to visit the Pandavas.
Okay.
And some things come out in the conversation, like between Vyasa and Yudhishthira, some things come out in the conversation. One, there's this assumption and argument that Bhishma and Draupadi have made that the Kauravas are now really happy with everything that's happened.
Okay.
And Yudhishthira has said that, like, they're feeling tortured.
Sure.
One, like, the fact that they're on what is known as adharma, so anti-dharma, basically. The fact that they're on that side of it is like there's always going to be some unhappiness. They can act like they're happy, but the fact that they know they've done wrong is going to torture them.
Yeah.
More than that, they have all the vows on their head, right? Like, they know...
So many vows.
Because Bheem said he would break through Yudhana's thigh, he would drink to Susana's blood, Draupadi would wash her hair in his blood, into Susana's blood.
God.
Arjuna was going to kill Karna. Sahadeva would kill Shakuni. Nakala would kill Shakuni's son. There was that image, I think the one that I really loved, with Arjuna picking up sand and just dropping the sand as he left Hastinapur.
Oh my, yes.
To be the arrows.
All of the arrows.
That would fall upon the nation.
Oh my God.
So, they have all of that on them. Okay? So that there is they have not forgotten that. What Vyasa also brings out is that if you had gone and attacked them in anger, like, don't forget that, yes, you guys are the Pandavas, you guys are the miraculous feats. Look at who you're facing.
Yeah. They're still real strong.
Yeah. Yeah, because Bhishma has pledged his allegiance to Duryodhana. At this, and especially if Yudhishthira goes against the vow or whatever, like, but actually, I think regardless of that, Bhishma, Karna, and then their teacher, Drona, all are students of Parashuram, like the greatest godliness master of all martial arts.
Gosh.
The greatest guru teacher that exists within the storyline, right, within this universe of Parashuram. They got their tutelage from him. Like, and of course, then others. Like, he mentions a couple of Ashwatthama, for example, who was taught by Drona. So you would, like, and they also have, as part of being students of Parashuram, they have the Astras. They have the heavenly mythical weapons. All of them do. More so even than the ones that Arjuna has right now.
Yeah.
So, you will lose the battle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're in a shitty spot.
it's not good.
It's not at all good.
It's not good.
Yeah, this is the low point.
Yeah. I see why they're all hiding away and being sad.
Yeah. Exactly.
I get it. They're just all up in their fields and
yeah,
listening to records.
Well, listen to Rishis tell stories, so the records of the time.
For sure.
Yeah. Like, put that other record on again. What was the story of Arjuna? Of Ram? Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me that one.
Yeah.
Tell me that happy one.
So they're listening to Vyasa. They acknowledge that, yes, especially Bheem and Draupadi kind of mumble a little to themselves, but they realize that, yeah, we have to be patient. But
Yeah.
Yudhishthira's worried. He's like, okay, like, this is true. Thank you. And, like, not enjoying it, but at least has a little bit of relief.
Mm-hmm.
He asks Vyasa then, well, what do we do when the 13 years are over? What can we, how could we stand up against them then? And Vyasa reminds Vyasa reminds Yudhishthira that in one of the early adventures, when it was Krishna and Arjuna, when they teamed up with Agni to burn down the forest.
Yeah.
And they spoke to Indra. And at that point, Arjuna asked Indra for the celestial weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And Indra, king of the gods, said to Arjuna that that'll come at some time, but that time is not now.
Okay.
It'll come after you gain a blessing from Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
So Vyasa says, now is that time.
Okay.
So Arjuna needs to go to visit Shiva.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So before that, Vyasa blesses Yudhishthira with something called the Pratasamriti.
Pratasamriti.
Yeah, the Pratasamriti. And I
Pratasamriti.
do not know exactly what it is, but in all the things that I've seen, it requires Vyasa kind of placing his hand on Yudhishthira and passing on the celestial knowledge.
Okay.
Right?
Cool.
So he passes that on to Yudhishthira. And then I don't know why he doesn't give it to Arjuna at the moment. But then later what it is Yudhishthira then sits down with Arjuna and does the same thing. And he passes that to Arjuna.
Okay.
The Pratasamriti. And some depictions I think this is what will help him on his journey when he goes to see Shiva.
Mm-hmm.
And from Shiva, he's going to get something called the Pasupatasta.
What's that?
I have no idea.
Dang, it sounds cool.
Yeah, and it's from that then that he will get all the celestial weapons.
Ooh, so it's like a big celestial trunk full of all the weapons.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah. Right? Like a treasure trove of everything. Or a Mary Poppins bag.
Uh-huh.
A magical little handbag.
Yeah. I'm seeing it as the key to the Hall of Abbas.
I mean, that's cool too.
Yeah.
You can't carry that around.
No, you can't carry it around so
You gotta-
much.
Maybe a satchel
Oh,
where you reach in and you pull out what you need.
I mean, that's what kind of these weapons are. They all kind of come from within. Once they're given to him.
Yeah.
So
A
Arjuna,
crossbody bag, and then he reaches in, but he looks like he's reaching into the bag, but he's reaching into his body.
and just pulls out a limb or the weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, my heart! Oh, I didn't mean it.
Put that back.
I can't. That's a one-way ticket right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, fortunately, it's not that.
Okay, good. Weapons only.
Weapons only. But so that's what he needs to go to see Shiva. And so Arjuna, so again we're looking at this case where Arjuna leaves the rest of the Pandavas while they're already on some kind of exile. So it's interesting how that idea kind of keeps coming back.
Yeah, he just can't stay still.
Yeah, and I think Yudhishthira, we don't know how long it'll take. He's gonna have to go to see Shiva. Who knows how many austerities and how long that'll take.
Yeah.
To do all that, but that's what's agreed upon. So that for Arjuna then to do that.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we're at the point in the Mahabharata when now, I feel like this is now the point where we can say that they're kind of over all, at least the internal conflicts between themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Bhishma hating Bheema hating Yudhishthira, Draupadi hating everybody.
Yeah.
This story is they're getting it all out, hearing the wisdoms, and what needs to happen now is the point where I feel like they've dealt with that now.
Mm.
And so
Okay.
now I believe they're more adjusted. They also decide, it's also Vyasa's advice that they leave this forest and they go back to the Kamyaka forest. And when they do that, there seems to be like a physical change in them as well.
Okay.
So Draupadi feels that they are kind of coming back.
Like there was some sort of negative energy in that other forest.
She was starting to feel that. Or like, I don't know, their story got wrapped up in that forest because this is where they really felt that trauma.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think it's anything and all of that. Mm-hmm. So at least a change of scenery.
Yeah.
So they will now go back to the Kamyaka forest.
Cool.
And Arjuna will go on this journey.
Okay.
On his own.
Another little pilgrimage.
Another little, but this time with a specific purpose.
Okay.
Of finding and getting weapons from Shiva.
The rest of them. Yeah. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I think that's where we'll end that today.
Okay.
So.
Oh, these boys.
They have a lot to deal with.
I know they have a lot to deal with. I feel sad and stressed for them.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Beam. I don't know why I feel so bad for Beam. Because he's just feeling it the most, right? He's all up in his feels.
Yeah. This is, now that Draupadi is less angry.
Yeah. Is it kind of balancing everybody out a little?
I think that, Beam was mostly upset, I think, because of that. Because
I feel like
hearing how much she was upset and betrayed.
I feel like he just felt like he disappointed her so much.
He is the most physically strong.
Right, because he could have stopped all of it if he physically stopped it. But he didn't.
He could have, yeah.
And so I bet he's living with that.
Yeah.
Disappointment in himself, and just like, not just disappointment, but like, not embarrassment. Well, maybe. But
I think shame and conflict.
Shame. That's the word I was trying to find. Shame,
and then the conflict, because he was obeying his brother.
I know.
No, and like as I said, I would not think I would feel this going back. I do feel more for Yudhishthira.
Sure.
He's
thinking about it. I mean, he wasn't. They put him all. Everyone told him that he was going to do this.
They put him on the highest pedestal.
Mm-hmm. And watched him fall real hard.
And you think about
just watched it happen.
Yeah.
Basically.
And he's a dude who
they didn't try to catch him.
Well, in which
the brothers they
kept trying to tell him not to gamble.
Well, yes.
But at that point, he's king of the world.
Yeah.
The universe, God, Krishna has given him everything.
Yep.
Trusts everything about him.
Yep.
What he has done, in spite of the fact that he didn't want it. No, or was afraid to have it.
Right.
And it all happened so fast. And yeah, so there's aspects of that really, like, to me, somewhat explains his, I don't know what you would call it, not indifference, but the lack of acknowledgement of, like, what was happening.
Yeah.
You know? And he's
not obliviousness, but
yeah,
sort of. The more we talk about him, for sure, the more I feel for him. I did not feel for him in the moment.
No. You felt for Draupadi at the moment.
Oh, Draupadi.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. But okay, so I'm glad that she was able to get things off of her chest. Mm-hmm. That everybody knows how she felt.
Yeah.
That everything's kind of sort of starting to balance out a little bit. Mm-hmm. Do we know how much time has passed yet?
You know, one of the books I was reading...
Has it been like 2 weeks?
No, one of the books I was reading say this is the 6-year mark.
What?
Yeah, which is...
That seems ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's something I'll say, like, I'm reading Ramesh Menon's Mahabharat, which is like the lovely big text that I'm drawing a lot from.
Yeah.
And yeah, that did strike me. It's like, oh, that's a long time, because I know we have so much more stuff, which we can still cover a lot in 6.
Well, of course.
You know.
But like 6 years to wallow like that seems like a lot.
Yeah. And maybe it's one of those things that you can reinterpret it as like all these other things were happening.
Sure.
But this story started to build within, and, you know.
Sure.
So, and then it was at this point. Well, so some of the stories that we'll tell later, maybe some of those happened in the midst of this story.
Sure.
You know? But yeah, again, so many different versions of it, so. But yeah.
Good grief.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, good.
Yeah. That's where we will end today, listeners.
Cool.
And yeah, we will pick up with Arjuna's travels.
Oh,
Again.
good. We get to see what he's up to.
Oh, it's a fun adventure too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited.
Yeah. All right. And on that note, have an imaginative day, listeners.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Not Your Mother's Mahabharat. Please like and subscribe to the podcast so that you don't miss our next episode. My name is Satish Jayaraj, and I am your storyteller and researcher. My wife and co-host is Azure Anderson. Azure also wrote the theme music, she did all the editing and producing, and essentially did all the work to get this podcast to you. Without her, it would just be me swearing ancient stories to friends in our living room.
If you want to support the podcast and hear additional content, you can do so by becoming a member of the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/NYMM podcast.
We would like to thank our current patrons for their support. Errol the Hamster, Dinosaur Sauce, Praveen Prem Kumar, and Mitchell Kusek.
Have an imaginative day.